Hi, guys. Hello. Hello. Oh, been a busy day. Busy day. Yes, a little rot. We'll get to that. Busy day, everybody. So, hmm. So hope you guys had a busy Saturday. Hope it was eventful. Mine was kind of eventful, kind of not. Didn't have a chance. Supposed to get my get my hair did this today, and that didn't work. Um, and to all the people who parked where my where I get my hair cut, and you were at the events in town, and you fucking ate up parking spaces, so I couldn't get into a spot in time and allow my girl to do her work on my due. Uh, fuck you, fuck you, heartfelt. And there goes the monetization. Oh well, oh well. P. Diddy surfaced to respond for his lair in Antarctica. Yes, and we're getting to that, guys. So, yes, the saga of P. Diddy. Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puff Pie Combs. And his, well, not his criminal cases, which those haven't happened yet, Knock on wood. Those have not happened yet. But the filings that were made as part of the complaint by Rodney Jones, also known as Lil Rod, which you guys agree is a horrible rapper name. I'm a Lil Rod. Even if you're Big Rod. I mean, I don't know if I'd want. I mean, none of them are good. Although I know we talked about this before. It's like the YN Melly trial, the YNW Melly trial. And you're gonna have you're gonna be sack chaser. I get it, you're chasing sacks of money, but it sounds like you're chasing some ball sack there. I'm just saying it could be done. It could be done differently. It could be done differently. Now, there has been a lot to go on. There's been a lot to go on here. Now, we're going to get to these because there's quite a bit that actually happened. At the beginning of April, Lil Rod filed a second amended complaint. And under the federal rules, you can do that in 21 days of filing your first one. And you have the right under the federal rules to do an amended complaint. You do have a time window for it. But there is some, 21 days of serving the complaint, and they already served it. They served it on, let's see, what date do they serve it? So there was a motion to file, and the parties were served. And there was a motion to dismiss the first complaint that was filed. And that was filed pretty soon. Well, so let's go back to the beginning here, Chad. I'm going to show you. We'll start. We're going to get into this right now. We're not going to wait. I'm sleazy to say if diddly could diddle with diddlers, how many diddles could diddle or diddly do? It's a lot of diddling. Hi, diddly Ido, neighborino. Diddly I. Okay. So here is, and this actually a little easier to read than Pacer, so that's why we're using here. So we have the first one, filing errors, deficient pleading. Okay, so there were some issues there. But here's the complaint. And it was filed February 26th. And we covered this at the beginning of March. And they had a deficient file sheet they had to fix. Okay, so they fixed it. They refiled their complaint. Boom, they got it going. They ended up seeking issuances against Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Ethiopia Habitamarium, Lucian Grange, Christina Coram. And remember, Lucian Grange is one of the Universal execs. Christina Coram is P. Diddy's personal assistant. Then you have Chalice Recording Studios, Love Records, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, and Combs Global Enterprises. So they were all listed. And we got going for a while, and then these parties claimed that there were issues about things were voluntarily dismissals were filed. And one of them was against Ethiopia Habitamarium. Okay, and I know I butcher her name, but I don't care. So there was a voluntary dismissal. There was another voluntary dismissal at Chalice Recording Studios. We're not going to open those up because literally, here's what a voluntary dismissal looks like. A notice of voluntary dismissal. You've never seen one before. Go to the court and say, look, plaintiff Rodney Jones hereby gives notice. The above caption is voluntarily dismissed without prejudice against Chalice Recording Studios only. And the plaintiff is going to refile against them in LI. Okay, done. So that's all that is. That's all it is if you've ever seen it, okay? No big deal. No big deal. So a bunch of attorneys have filed appearances and gotten ready. So there was a second amended complaint. So we have an amended complaint that was filed. And that was filed at the end of March. And if we keep going here, there was a notice of the voluntary dismissal again. Notice of voluntary dismissal again. There's a corporate disclosure statement. If you guys have ever seen these, you have to do this when you're dealing with corporate parties here. So you have to show who the defendants are, and they were incorrectly identified. But you show that UMG, Universal Music Group, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Universal Music Group NV, a Netherlands publicly traded company. Okay. That no other publicly held company owns 10% or more of the stock of UMG because those parties might be necessary and be brought in. But it shows everybody what's going on and who's involved. So there are rules for that. You have to disclose who's here, who's being involved. There's a couple of waivers of service. These parties are waiving service that they're saying, look, I got it. Including, like, we'll just start here. Lucian Grange. If you guys have never seen these before, they're waiving of service of summons. Yep. So, notwithstanding failure by plaintiff to attempt service of process, defendant Sir Lucian Grange and his counsel, Prior Cashman, which these guys are heavy hitters, hereby agree to waive service of process in the action to save time and expense of requiring a plaintiff to serve the summons. They're just saying, you know what? Yeah, it's service. It's all good. We got it. We got it. Now they're saying we're waiving this idea of having to come hunt us down. Like, you don't have to do it formally, just get it to us. But we expressly reserve and don't waive any and all objections in law or equity other than as to service of process, including without limitation to the lawsuit, the court's jurisdiction, and the venue of this action. So that is what they're doing here. This is their way of acknowledging, and you can do this. We're waiving service. Just get, like, here, send me all the shit. Let's get started. Because in a situation like this, it's not, there are times where you do play this. It's the dance of service and the process. You don't play it in this situation. These guys are going to start. They're already shooting at each other. They are shooting at each other. Young Forever says, Clyde doing okay. Yeah. Why? He's back 2.0's home. Hold on. Clyde! Click, clack, click, clack. Hey, buddy. Hey. Hey. Come here. I know I don't have the pig ear. Come on. Come on. Well, he's got a pig ear, and he's hanging out with 2.0, so he's not going to come in. You know, and Green Caps is already with the excuse. Oh, you come here, buddy. Hey, come here. God, you smell like pee. Why do you roll around on weird shit outside, buddy? God. You smell like pee. Hey, come here. Come here. Yeah, he figured out what a pig's ear is today. Holy shit, he ate that whole thing like a piglet. Do you want down? All right, fine. Here, I'll let you know. You're worried about the excuses? You know what? Y'all don't know what it's like till your kid has 109 fever and has to go play a piano recital at a gay nightclub. It's not easy, especially at 2 in the morning. It's not easy, chat. You should try it sometime. It's hard. It's hard out there. The Vince guy, Vince's lawsuit, there's been responses in that too. We aren't doing that tonight. I was thinking about doing it tomorrow until I realized the Formula One race is in the afternoon. So I don't know. We might do that tomorrow night. I don't know. Tom saying hello. Yeah. Little colostomy bag. Who's going to send it for the yeast prawn when Kanye launches it? Yeah, that'll be interesting. Sean replaced Clyde while 2.0 was away. It's funny. I have a funny story about that. When back before I was married and I was still dating who was to be my wife at the time, she and her roommates, she had 2 roommates, and one of them ended up she ended up with a helioblastoma. So one of the things they did after they found out that all happened was the one summer they went on a cruise. They went on a cruise, they went to the Bahamas. So somewhere short they could be back and minimize any risk. Well, they were gone. Well, their friend who was sick she ended up not feeling well, ended up going back early. So they did their trip and they're messing around and I'm watching it, and the one roommate had a rabbit. And I was taking care of it and letting it hop around the house and all that. And for some reason, they said this story forever. They thought the rabbit died and I got a new one because they thought the rabbit was like bigger than what it was, and it wasn't. I was just feeding it like normal. They were just gone for like a week and a half. I don't know what the deal was, but it was still like a younger rabbit. So I mean, it was still growing, but yeah, they think I replaced it. Jesus says, "Are you choosing to be stuck in the woods with a bear or a man? Would that change your answer if it was P Diddy?" Why would I want to? I'd rather be with the bear because then I don't have to hear people fucking talk to me. And besides, if the bear, like I've seen what bears do in Russia, they're kind of chill sometimes. But also, I can like, I don't have to talk to anybody. Clyde needs a bully stick. Yes, I'll have to rename him to Vince. Yes, more P. Clyde, more. Yes. Walk a mile with his Baldo. Yeah. No, the friend did not die on the cruise. She actually she survived for quite a while. Um, she made it longer than the expectancy window, the life expectancy. She beat it by almost like 8-9 months, but very quickly it went downhill fast. You say helioblastoma? Did you fail attraction of the rabbit? No, no. Rabbits have tularemia. They have rabbit fever anyway. Well, you know what? She's in a better place now, and she was a hell of a person, but she's, better off now. She's no longer suffering, and she accepted Jesus as her savior and king, and she is very religious, and yeah, she's in a better spot. She actually is. She has left this mortal coil. She's, you know, living the good life right now. So lucky her. Sadly for us. So Steven says, would I rather go to a Denny's in the woods with a cop or a bear? Is my kid performing at a piano recital in the middle of the night as well? Does this Denny's come with a hot tub? You know, it all depends. It all depends. Uh, depends. It all depends. So let's get back to this with Diddy. But anyways, guys, this is what it looks like. You can waive service. You're like, look, yeah, whatever. We got it. We're good. So you can do that. And that's a foul way of handling things. Now, immediately there was a motion to dismiss the first amended complaint. All right. And there was a memorandum of law that was filed. There was also a motion to dismiss the first amended complaint, and they did an entire list of everybody who's involved here. People, and this is an entire motion to dismiss the complaints. Then they did a second amended complaint at the end of March. Okay. And part of the issue is when you're filing a motion to dismiss, if you know the other party's going to file an amended complaint, sometimes you hold off. But it's all entirely up to whoever's doing it, how you want to file things. If you want to go ahead and do it, I mean, you can. It's kind of. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of like, why fight it ahead of time? So ultimately, this notice in this first amended complaint, this declaration, I'm sorry, and we'll get to this here. This is the declaration by Donald Zakarian. And some of you guys probably are thinking, he's not from the first lawsuit. He's not even listed. Who the hell is this guy? Well, Donald Zakarian is a attorney from Prior Cashman. Like I said, these guys are no joke. This is what you can do. This is what fuck you money gets you. You get to hire good people. So Donald Zakarian, he's a member of Prior Cashman. He's counsel for defendant Sir Lucian Grange and a couple of the other parties here. So they are now, and this is his declaration. So this is a declaration, meaning what at the end, he's declaring under the penalty of perjury, the United States of America, the foregoing is true and correct. So he's giving a sworn statement to the court. Now, it starts off by, and I having read this a little bit already, the falsity of the plaintiff's first amended complaint. Now, he also talks about the second amendment complaint. Because remember, you have 21 days. Within 21 days of serving the original, or at any point before the defendant answers the complaint, you can amend. Well, notice he points out March 26th. And when did the first one happen? February 13th. And those you keep it score, that's over 30 days. So what do we have? Well, we have a bit of an issue here because it's unauthorized, because the only other way you can file outside that 21-day window is by leave of court. So they're acknowledging we intend to move against only the first authorized amended complaint. Okay. And they talk about that. I wrote to this court, Mr. Backburn advised that we would not consent to his filing. And remember, you need permission from the parties or leave of the court. Okay. So we're not going to consent to this. And that did not dismiss our clients from this action. And that he had no authority to amend as of right. Now they're pointing out that this second complaint is more offensively false than the first, without the slightest factual basis. There are, the original foundation, utterly false allegations. I mean, they were very salacious, but to argue, yeah, there's a bit of an issue here. So anyways, you get to the first amended complaint alleges that both Grange and Ethiopia Habtemariam were supposedly aware of the alleged sex trafficking by Combs because they saw them at the listening parties where this was happening. And he talks about these are false allegations. And they keep going on to say these are all false. And he gets to the point of laying out why that happened here. And they point out these have no basis in fact. And they get all the way to the very end. And they get to... And here's the big thing you want to take away from this, because this is almost a whole video in of its own. But these are unsupported accusations that cash payments were provided to Diddy by UMG. And they have provided Jones's attorneys with clear and unequivocal notice the first amended complaint purposely fails to comply with Rule 11, meaning in good faith. And they're filing a Rule 11 sanctions action against them. So as you can see, there's a massive shot across the bow right now. And what happens in response? Well, Lil Rod's attorneys file what are it's called a letter. Now, this is a thing that typically happens out on the East Coast. This is a traditional East Coaster way of handling stuff. If I'm going too fast in this, guys, tell me and I'll slow down. We live in a simulation. Sucky $5 says you should cover the Young Thug case. Other than the judge shitting himself, there's only so much you can cover in that one at a time. Because it's going to be Young Thug part 534. I can't do that. So Distance says, wait, his rap name is Lil Rod. His name is Rodney Jones, but he goes by Lil Rod. So speed it up already, Sean. Okay, well, we're getting to it. So T.A. Blackburn, so Tyrone A. Blackburn, Lil Rod's attorney, files what's called a letter. And this is part of the record. So this is actually filed as a thing, but you submit it to the judge. Okay? So his firm represents the plaintiff. This letter addresses the motion to dismiss filed. What happens there? On March 4th, plaintiff received a letter from the defendants regarding their opposition to the complaint. In accordance with the 21-day safe harbor rule, plaintiff amended his complaint on March 25th. On the 21st day of the 21-day safe harbor. Now, when you guys are thinking, well, what did they file a letter for? Well, this is how this works in civil procedure. Rule 11 requires a party seeking sanctions to first serve the challenged party, meaning their attorney, with a sanctions motion describing the conduct that allegedly violates Rule 11, after which the challenged lawyer has a 21-day safe harbor to withdraw or amend the allegedly deficient pleading. So the way it works is, so Lucian Grange, the head of Universal Music Group, his attorney sent out a letter saying, hey, we're going to file this motion if you don't fix this. Here's where you're wrong. Here's what's wrong with it. And we're going to fucking annihilate you. You better fix it. Well, they have a chance to fix it. And they're saying, this is what we did. We did what they wanted us to do. The defendant notified plaintiff's counsel of alleged deficiencies in his first complaint on, and they talk about the other case. This case that they're referring to here, other things that happened. As part of the plaintiff's amendment, he received a declaration from Ethiopia Hebetamariam. In her declaration, she states that Mr. Grange was a direct supervisor and that UMG provided authorization to establish and fund the Love album. That's the album that Lil Rod worked with P. Diddy on. The plaintiff determined that UMG and Motown Records had a business partnership based on the public statements on their websites and LinkedIn business pages. If the courts visit the attached links, it would see for itself, as of the filings letter, Motown still refers to the deal with Combs as a partnership. In the relevant part, the defendant's website states the following: Motown and Diddy partner up. They're partners, to quote Eric July. Partner. Diddy will be dropping his latest album on our label later this summer. On top of that, we're helping establish his latest and most exciting venture yet, Love Records. Sounds like a business relationship to me. On their LinkedIn page, and they blah, 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 blah with the link. UMG states the following: Love Records and Motown Records. Diddy's new album will be the first release from Love Records in partnership with Motown. Now, obviously, that doesn't the announcing of a partnership doesn't make it a partnership, but they likely have agreements in place, and that just further cements that this is a partnership. They do point out defendants are responsible for their public statements regarding their partnership with Diddy. They did not have any issues marrying themselves to Diddy when it was popular. Now, suddenly, after Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit in November 2023, they are treating Diddy like he has the plague and are desperately trying to rewrite history. So, Rod informed the court of his intention to file a second amended complaint 2 days before the defendant's appearance. The March 27, 2024 motion to dismiss the first amended complaint, which the second amended complaint has replaced, was filed in bad faith and nothing more than a public relations stunt. The plaintiff notified the court of his intention to amend the complaint to remove Ethiopia Habitamarium and Chalice Recording Studios as defendants. 2 days later, the defendants filed a letter and finally made an appearance in this case. This was despite sending this writer threatening emails and letters, rejecting an opportunity for a conversation concerning the plaintiff's claims. Plaintiff did not formally file a motion to amend the pleading because he had a duty under the safe harbor rule to amend any issues raised by the defendants. Pretty fair. Which the plaintiff did on March 25th. Although the plaintiff did not file a motion for leave to amend, which you probably should have done that anyway. Even though you're doing it under a Rule 11 in the Safe Harbor rule, I think you probably should have filed for a leave to amend anyway. The plaintiff respectfully requests the court to grant the plaintiff to leave to amend nunc pro tunc. Now, they point out that the leave to amend should be freely granted when justice so requires. And you know what? The case has just started. Generally speaking, there isn't a reason for them not to. Now, if the court finds out you've been screwing around and causing problems, that's when the court's going to look at you and say, I ain't letting you amend no more. But generally speaking, you can get the right to amend. As you've probably seen with lawsuits and the lawsuits involving like Russell Greer or Acer Thorne or even Chili DeCastro was a big one too. People were covering his lawsuits like, he's getting the right to amend. Yeah, the court's like, this isn't hurting anybody ultimately. So that's what's going to happen. Although the plaintiff's request to amend wasn't formal, which you shouldn't informally do it, you should do it formally, he didn't inform the court of his intentions. Well, that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. The defendant's motion was filed in bad faith to distance themselves from their recent partners running with the law. Well, yes, Diddy had a problem in March, if we remember. So counts for defendants aware of the 21-day rule, which adds to the plaintiff's belief is filed in bad faith. This motion was not only filed to distract from the fact that the business partner, Diddy's homes in LA, California, and Miami were both raided. And they're desperate to rewrite history. However, facts will show that they gave him unfettered access to financial resources, did not have proper oversight and accounting for how the money was being used, and were his partners despite what they're saying. Of the 248 pages of the defendant's motion to dismiss, That's why we're not covering it. It's fucking huge. The defendant has not provided one receipt or transaction history detailing how the money they provided Diddy was spent. The plaintiff doubts there are any records and he's eager to be proven wrong. Furthermore, Ethiopia Hadamariam's claim that this writer speaks to bloggers is demonstrably false. And I made that clear to her counsel, Ashley Lynn. So that was one of the things, too. They're like, oh, he's leaking information. Well, information's coming out probably from everywhere in this situation. He says, I've rejected every interview request from major networks, and I would never sit for an interview with a blog. Then he just asked for this to be dismissed, dismiss the bad faith motion and allow the complaint to be amended. If the defense would like to file a motion to dismiss on the second complaint, they're welcome to do so. Now, you saw this, and this is something important here, going to this. There's a notice here. It says, notice to attorney Tyrone Blackburn. Second amended complaint. The filing is deficient for the following reasons. And this is just the PACER entry. And it's something to think about. The court's leave has not been granted. The order granting permission to file the pleading was not attached. The pleading is not linked to a first amended complaint. Refile the pleading using the event type amended complaint found under the event list complaints, and he didn't file it properly in the system. So, yeah, there's a bit of an issue there. He didn't get leave. Now, the attorneys for the other side, Lucian Grange, filed. And they filed and they responded back. And apparently you guys are liking this green better anyway, so I'm just going to stick with this for now. Is this still good for you guys to read? Saying, I do have Pacer. I use Pacer for real things. I'm using court listening. Why would I spend the money if I don't have to? I'm freezing up on your end? No, sorry, Tilly. Lucian is such a video game name. Anything Goes says it's so good to read. Yes, reading is good. So he says, we're counsel to UMG Recordings, Motown Records, and Sir Lucian Grange. Now they're complaining that the sua sponte waiver of service. Sua sponte means by their own accord. So they acted of their own accord. The waiver of service, a process, and the filing of 12B6 motion to dismiss, and asserted them in plaintiff's amended complaint dated March 2nd. Having filed a complaint makes baseless accusations of criminal behavior against the UMG defendants over 1 month ago that Blackburn made no effort to serve process. It appears Blackburn believes that unjustly accused defendants should be powerless to respond to such a pleading. And that's the thing with these letters, guys. These letters are very, persnippety. Especially even, following Robert Gouveia when he talks about the Trump cases with these letters. Yeah, these attorneys are talking shit to each other. It's very amusing. So, they say that UMG were absolutely entitled to waive service under Federal Rule of 4, instead of allowing Blackburn to endlessly file unauthorized pleadings in his unilateral game of whack-a-mole. Perhaps he believes he can make outrageously false allegations in a pleading, never serve them, let them marinate in the press for a month, and then completely abandon them. File equally false and legally baseless claims on a completely different accusations, and there is no harm, no foul. There is harm and there is a foul. And that is what the UMG defendant's motion addresses. Effectively admitting that the first amended complaint, and we actually haven't read that. I have not read that yet. He authored, signed, and filed against UMG is foundationally based on fabricated allegations, which we pointed out to him in his letter, the safe harbor letter. Blackburn protests he filed a purported second amended complaint, the SAC, that suggests cures his and plaintiff's prior frivolous pleading. Blackburn seeks shelter under Federal Rule Civil Procedure 11C2 and argues that his so-called sack, he's hiding behind a sack, chat, whipped it out and just hid behind it. Got a big old sack. And renders UMG defendant's motion to dismiss the amended complaint as a bad faith filing. Blackburn is wrong for multiple reasons. First, they're saying here the March 4th rule is the March 4th letter supposedly triggered his 21-day clock to cure the frivolous conduct. That's incorrect. They say this letter is being sent to you in advance of our making a rule level motion in accordance with the requirement. Such motion, if we're required to make it, will provide you with the 21-day notice before we seek the imposition of monetary sanctions against you. Second, Blackburn mischaracterized our Rule 11 demand as seeking only the withdrawal of certain false and frivolous allegations, without withdrawing all allegations and claims against the UMG defendants. That too is incorrect. We expressly stated you can avoid a Rule 11 motion only by withdrawing the complaint or immediately amending it to remove all allegations and claims against our clients, which they represent everybody but like Diddy, really, at this point. So that had not been done, so we will serve and file a Rule 11 motion. And the unauthorized sack, that big old sack just flopping around. Blackburn jettisoned every one of the FAC's foundational allegations against the UMG defendants, improperly filed twice now without leave of this court, without bothering to identify the changes he made. And that's part of why you need your leave of court. You're going to say, Your Honor, and typically when you file it, a motion to leave of court to file an amended complaint, you attach your amended complaint saying, Your Honor, if you let me, here's what I'll file, and then I can immediately file it instanter, meaning immediately. So the FAC included the confounded allegations that the plaintiff personally saw Lucian Grange at Combs' sex trafficking parties, and also saw Ethiopia had Mariam there. Yeah, and that's true. In his complaint, Lil Rod said, I saw all these people there. They're claiming Motown Records is liable under a doctrine of respondeat superior. And yes, they say respondent. It's respondeat. That's because Word does not do legal words very well spell check wise. So that's why you see the sick there. Superior is the parent company of co-defendant Love Records, which is Diddy's record label. And UMG Records and Motown supposedly funded the sex trafficking with bags of cash. So every one of these foundational allegations has been wiped from the sack. They rubbed the sack real hard, chat. Along with one of the claims he asserted against Motown Records for California premises liability. And that premises liability, I think, goes back to, if I remember correctly, when they had the shootout at the record studio, where the guys did a drive-by and somebody came from inside the record studio and was just like, bop, 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 started busting shots back. But while busy accusing UMG of bad faith in their motion to dismiss, which would seem to be a textbook example for psychological diagnosis of projection, just notice how shitty these guys are to each other. Nowhere does he offer any explanation for the provenance of these allegations to begin with. Indeed, his feeble attempt to justify his new general partnership allegation, an allegation directly refuted by both Ms. Habtemariam and her counsel, and exclusively contradicted by paragraph 1611 of the license agreement, as attached as Exhibit A, to the declaration of Mrs. Brathwaite filed in support of UMG's defendant motion to dismiss, itself confirms the parent company allegation was made up by Blackburn. Furthermore, since Grange has never been any of Diddy's homes, the plaintiff's assertion and the fact that he saw Grange disappear with Diddy into Diddy's home for hours at a time can either be a delusion or a lie. Since the exact allegation is made in the fact as it is to Ms. Habtemariam, who was also never at any of Diddy's homes after Plaintiff was hired by Diddy. It seems fairly clear it's no delusion, but is a lie. Ooh. Lil Rod's a liar? I don't know, chat. Lil Rod's lying. Poor Lil Rod. Poor Lil Rod. Yes, they rubbed the sack and the allegation shot out. And that's how it works. You rub a sack and it spits out documents. So they then go on saying, invoking only loosely worded press reports about Motown and then the newly formed Love Records to distribute a single album, the unauthorized SAC invents a non-existent general partnership. And they point out that the allegations are untrue. Basically, they're saying it's not true. That's not true. That our agreements don't allow for this in the actual writing of the agreements. And then third, Blackburn pretends he was somehow authorized to file the SAC to address our demands, and the UNG defense are barred from filing a Rule 11 motion as to the fact. Yeah, I don't think they are. Blackburn failed to obtain either the defendant's written or any consent or leave of court prior to filing. So the UMG defendants properly moved against the fact. Yes. Now, some of you might say, why wouldn't they go against covering the second amended complaint just to cover their bases? Well, at that point, you could argue if you're attacking the second amended complaint, I don't want to be seen as though, well, because if you're Lil Rod's attorney, what you're going to say is, see, they filed against Second Amendment complaint. They must be cool with it. That's their consent. And that's not exactly what, like, you should have written consent. Even an email just saying, we have no objection to you doing this. Okay. But notice if, like, they could argue the complaint itself is, the answer is consent. So there's no reason to respond to it. And I wouldn't do it if I were them either. That's the way that makes sense here. But yeah, Blackburn should have filed for leave anyway. And they're pointing it out and they're hammering with it. So they say, we'll be serving our Rule 11 motion on Blackburn. And if he doesn't change his mind, we'll file it. But he says, I regret burning the court further, but we believe the court's entitled to facts. Donald's a Karen. He's like, it's like, Judge, they made me do it. They made me do it, Judge. I was trying to be a good boy, Judge. So there's another. Oh, we do have the letter. There is a letter from Blackburn to Zakarin. And this is from Prior Cashman. Like I said, these guys are these guys are on the don't, they're on the don't fuck with truck. Anyways, Prior Cashman. So this letter, and he just says this letter is being sent to you in advance of making a Rule 11 motion as part of the required by the civil rules. You could avoid a Rule 11 motion only by drawing the complaint or amending it to remove all allegations and claims against our clients. And he talks about their Rule 11 obligations. Now, they do bring up here Rule 11 violations. They bring up this little footnote, and there's a footnote here, if you look, and it goes right there. Well, what's that footnote, chat? Well, the footnote says, by failing to include your office address, email address, telephone number of the complaint, it is in violation of Rule 11A. This failure, however, is the least of your problems. Now, you have to include that. If I file, like I have a complaint that got filed recently. So what do I need to do? I need my name, my bar number, my office address, my mailing address, phone number, fax number, email. How do you get a hold of me? Because the parties have a right to do that. And it sounds like it wasn't properly done. And I don't recall that, but we'll take a look later. So they talk about the complaint, multiple facts that are completely and demonstrably fabricated and not true. Indeed, as I will discuss below, not only did you file a complaint in violation of Rule 11 and then double down on that impropriety by filing your amended complaint, the complaint also violates Rule 8's requirement of a short and plain statement. By way of example, and he points out that paragraph 343 goes on for 6 pages of single space type, not a single page, which contains a single fact of which you or your client have any knowledge of and are in an event patently false. They point out these accusations are redundant, irrelevant, immaterial, impertinent, scandalous, and prejudicial. It's scandalous. In addition, the complaint necessarily improper inclusion of personal residential addresses in the complaint confirms that you and your client have acted in malice and furtherance of an extortionate attempt to extract an undeserved payment. And he's saying, we're shaking us down. You're trying to dox us, and you're hoping you could shake us down and threaten us with a dox. So they talk about failing to state a claim against the clients. The RICO allegations are wholly deficient. Remember what I said, guys, in that case. RICO is never the answer. RICO never works in a civil case. No, no, no. Don't do RICO. Just like in Nick and Monty's case. Nick Ricada and Monograph's case, where Monograph's attorney filed a RICO claim. RICO is never the answer. It's never RICO. The only time you should put RICO in a civil complaint is if one of the parties is named RICO, or it's in Puerto Rico. Otherwise, you should never have RICO as a standalone name for anything in a civil complaint. Okay, or maybe if you're referencing like a federal RICO case, maybe that's like exception number 3. Or we'll do it like Inglourious Basterds, like 3. Like, I've caught you. The only times you should talk about RICO. Big Rod would be disappointed, yes. You keep hearing me say the F slur. Zakarin, the Karen. Yes, Zakarin. Shade case in the footnote. Yeah. So I mean, these letters, some attorneys make it a habit of being an asshole. You guys are having too much fun in chat. I'm going to keep going. Maybe you guys will keep up. Okay, you know what? Ag, you've got it. You've got another answer. Maybe if I'm making a joke or talking shit to another party, or you're making an allegory about Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Okay, that's probably the only other time. Fourth example. The fourth example of when you would put Rico in a lawsuit. Or if you want to tie in Rico Suave, fine, 5. Rico Suave. Other than that, never use Rico. We have friends in chat, Sean. Well, I'm going to keep talking. So, our clients to your fabricated RICO conspiracy, you attempt to connect them solely due to their alleged failure to exercise supervision over individuals they have no duty to supervise. Multiple times a baseless allegation, our clients occupied the position of, and here again, this is when people are assholes, respondent superior. Presumably, you actually mean respondeat superior. And yes, some of you might say, well, that sounds like something somebody on Reddit would do. Yes, but when in the legal field, this is permissible dickhead stuff. You can do this. I've done this before. Like, surely you mean this? Or when they misstate a provision of like the Ohio law, and it's like 2917.11, but they put that in like 2971.11. It's like, surely you mean 2917.11. Similarly, your aiding and abetting allegations are premised on the non-existent duty and the alleged provision of cash. To begin, your client has no standing to pursue a civil claim under a criminal statute, and your client has no standing to pursue a civil claim under there. But this just scratches the surface. Your complete failure to conduct anything remotely resembling a reasonable inquiry into the facts. So, they point out here to begin with, there's no conceivable base on which you or your client could have known anything. The existence of cash payments or a client's tax filings. There were no cash payments made. There was no failure to properly file tax reports. These materially and palpably false. There's not even the remotest possibility you comply with your obligations as an attorney to conduct a reasonable inquiry into the facts. Instead, either you fabricated the entire story yourself or your client did. Either way, not only is there no viable claim pled, and not only does the complaint violate Rule 8, Rule 12, and Rule 12F, it indisputably violates Rule 11. Hold on one second, Chad.
$40
For the bully sticks?
for 2 bull penises.
Okay, I just put you back. Like, okay, hold on. So it's a bully stick, like there's just like a dried up penis the dog chews on?
Yeah.
Are the Jews behind this? Is that what they do with all the foreskins? Okay. Apparently we're working on trying to get stuff for Clyde chew toys.
12 inches.
Okay.
Are you jealous?
Why would I be jealous? Why would I be jealous for a shorter item? So we're trying to get, yep, okay, see? Stacy says Clyde bully sticks. There we go. I didn't realize that's a thing, but yes, apparently Costco sells dry cow cocks. And it's like, that's what the Jews do with their foreskins. They take them and they make like particle board cocks. You didn't know what a bully stick was? No. No. My dogs usually chewed on pig's ears or cow hooves. I was never like, huh, you know what they need to do? Chew on desiccated bull penises. Are cow foreskins kosher? Yeah. Use the correct pronoun, Sean. Cows are female. They all go moo. I don't care. Their pronouns mean nothing to me. So, anyways, back to the case. In fact, the complaint is virtually bereft of any factual facts regarding our clients. Instead of documenting each and every falsehood that is contained in the complaint, which we should do should we have to proceed by motion, which will end up being entirely at your expense. See how fucking assholish these guys get. I will literally enumerate a few examples. You claim the defendants engaged in torts in New York. Our clients did nothing in New York or anywhere else. You claim Motown founded Love Records. There is no basis for this statement. Indeed, Motown did not even distribute the album in which your client claims to have worked. A fact that would have been required very little effort on your part to find, but which was apparently beyond your ability to, which was apparently beyond your ability to perform. He's just saying, y'all fucking stupid. He just says you're dumb. You're so dumb for real. So dumb. So dumb. In paragraphs 51, 53, you claim UMG and Motown had some duty to respect not only UMG and Motown not to provide any such security, UMG and Motown had no such duty. In these other paragraphs, in identical words, you claim that Lucia Grange and Ethiopia had Tamarium visited Diddy's house in LA and Miami in the evenings, and both would disappear for hours in Diddy's bedroom. Aside from the absurd oddity of the alleged identical behavior by two individuals separately on apparently separate occasions, the entire story about their attendance at any event at Diddy's homes or any listening parties is fabricated. Grange has never been to Diddy's house in Los Angeles or Miami, and never sponsored any parties, and was never present at any writers' camps. So it's all made up. With respect to Miss Habtemariam, she ceased working for Motown in the fall of 2022, just after Jones became associated with Diddy. So they keep pointing out none of this works. This is all wrong. And they keep going here. Now, this is the end, and the end of this is very spicy. In fact, not only are you apparently willing to file a complaint in complete violation of the rules, we understand as well that you personally provided advance copies of this complaint to the press. In doing so under New York law and potentially California law, you have forfeited whatever benefits of the litigation privilege that might arguably attend to the filing of a knowingly false pleading you have subjected yourself and your client to well-founded defamation claims, not involving libel per se, because you falsely accuse our client participating in aiding and abetting a crime, but it's clear you did so with actual malice. Depending on how swiftly you amend or withdraw this complaint to delete all references to our clients, we will evaluate when and where they will proceed against you and your client as evaluating proceeding under 28 U.S.C. 1927 against you. So they're pointing out that you have, if we get our way, we are coming after you no matter what. And that is under 18 U.S.C. 1927, that is counsel's liability for excessive cost. If you're a person admitted and you cause unreasonable and vexatiously maybe required by the court to satisfy the excess costs, expenses, and attorney's fees because of such conduct. So it's not just it's any attorney or other person admitted to conduct cases or conduct. So it's not only would Lil Rod be on the hook, but this attorney will be on the hook. So that's the threat. So this goes on. These guys are going back and forth and back and forth. The court set this for a telephone conference. So these guys sent more fucking letters. They sent more memorandum of law. Order on motion to leave to file a document. Order on motion to dismiss. So, there are some orders here that were granted. And this is where we're going to get to where we get to. Plaintiff's motion for leave to file a second amended complaint is granted. Plaintiff should file the proposed second amended complaint on EFC as a separate documentary. UMG shall file their motion to dismiss by April 30th. Plaintiff's opposition shall be filed within 3 weeks of defendant's motion, and any reply to that opposition shall be filed within the 2 weeks filing of the plaintiff's motion. So you get the complaint, the motion to dismiss. Okay, so it's gone now from plaintiff to defendant. Now the plaintiff, the ball's back in his court. Plaintiff hits it again as an opposition. And then finally, the defense gets to hit back a reply. And that's it. So because of that, the motion to dismiss is dead. It's rendered moot. And now we have the second amended complaint. And we're going to just catch up here to where we are in time so you guys understand. There's a motion to dismiss that was filed on the 24th by a bunch of the parties here. And we'll get to that. And there was a motion to dismiss again by Donald Zakarin of the second amended complaint. And they go through all of this. All this. And there was a summons issued. And that's where it stops. Means there haven't been any updates. And that's not uncommon. It's going to be a couple days where things happen here. All right. Now, this is for them seeking summons on a civil action. And they are trying to get service on people like Diddy at his locations, his son, Justin, Cuba Gooding Jr. They are, once again, trying to get Lucian Grange, Christina Coram, Love Records, Universal Music Group, and Clomes Global Enterprises. So that's what they're going for with that. Let's get back up to the part we want to see. So, the second amended complaint. Here we go, chat. Oh, I gotta cancel all these out. Too many. So we did the first one. Wait, hold on. Do I have the same thing? Yeah, okay. If you guys remember, we did this already. And it was... This is very interesting. Now we're getting to the trigger warnings, chat. Looking at the various entities, looks like there's some pretty unorganized lawyering going on. Yeah, it's a bit of a gaggle. I got them in the Nylabone edible and they ate those already. Oh no, we're not doing rawhides are bad because some of those are synthetic and those fuck dogs up. So no, I don't like rawhides. Pig ears are good enough. Except we're gonna have to get the big pig ears. Because that little one Clyde chowed down on. So I love how we're just discussing our shit in front of you guys. Yeah, but I'm worried he's gonna hurt his teeth on a pig's hoof. So yeah, no rawhides may contain formaldehyde. Yep. Yeah, no, we got a little. She ended up ordering like a little pig's ear, and Clyde chomped it all out. But yeah, the big pig's ears, like the big hog's ears, those are good for dogs. Those are good. Dry beef liver is the best. I might know somebody who can hook me up with that. So, guys, we talked about these before. The complaint. Remember, this is Cuba Gooding Jr. and all the sex and all the just debauchery and disgustingness. We already did this once. And it was bad. And it had the trigger warning. that there were guns and rape and drugs and sex. And Diddy being a homo taking men shopping. So let's go back to this. Who's in this? Lil Rod Jones. He alleges a complaint that Diddy, Little Diddy, Lucian Grange, Cuba Gooding Jr., Christina Coram, Love Records, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, and defendant Combs Global Enterprises, John and Jane Doe's 1 to 10, and ABC Corporation's 1 to 10. Now notice who's not in here. Ethiopia Habtemariam and Chalice Recording Studios. They got removed. Remember, they said, we're going to California with those. So that happened. So we've already addressed a lot of this stuff, and this goes from September 22 to the date of this filing. All the things that have gone on here. So, yep, we got all these pictures from before, if you guys remember. Here's Diddy. There's Little Diddy. Little Diddler. Lucian Grange. Sir Lucian Grange. Cuba Gooding Jr. Christina Coram, she's Diddy's chief of staff, his personal assistant. Motown Records. Surprised Adidas doesn't get fucking mad about that label, because that's almost... That's surprised. I am surprised. Adidas should be like all up in that business. If I was Adidas, I'd be. Universal Music Group, Love Records, which that does, I'm not going to lie. When Love Records shows themselves with Motown's label, I think that gives the appearance these guys are working together. I think it's a reasonable inference. And then Combs Global Enterprises. So we'll get to the, we're going to get to the events here. So there was, if you guys see here, this is 98 pages long. How long was the original complaint? Because we're not going to be able to go through and pick each thing out of it here. But let's see what the original was 73. So we talk about there is the Chalice Recording Studio shooting. And that's where the guy, in the bathroom and all the shooting happened. And this is at that point where the guy's like, I'm okay with this. I'm not going to run away from this group. Motown is a partner in love. Yes. Cuba was having trouble sitting in that pick. Well, I'm assuming Cuba's doing a lot of the pitching. I don't think he's a catcher. So, yeah, and this is also where, Lil Rod was helping the guy who got shot. And the guy I remember we talked about the guy's shitting himself to death on the toilet. And it talks about here, there was the Hollywood shooting and the police never found out about it. And if you guys remember, yep, that's a crime scene. And yep, that's not that much blood really when you think about it. And I know some of you are thinking, what do you mean that's not a lot of blood? I've seen a lot of blood before. That's not a lot of blood. Like, somebody got wounded, like, yeah, but that's not that much. I mean, yes, if I saw that much blood and I walked in the bathroom, I'd be like, I'm not coming in there. But I wouldn't walk in there and I think, oh, somebody got fucked up, but not shot or severely injured. So, anyways, we go through all this, and the bigger things are the pictures and everything that happens here. This is a new one. We hadn't seen this before. Here's Chalice Recording Studios. This is a new one. You have Love Records. And here's the recording studios. So they have, these are interesting. You have all these different studios and booths. And on, the one is stereotypes. Why are we supporting stereotypes, creating stereotypes? I understand that's probably a music term I don't get, but you have all these different people. You have the squad, probably not the cringe squad, but maybe. You got Diddy and Studio G, And then the hit boy room. The hit boy room. I don't know what the hell that means. So they do talk about here the silence from the attendees of the shooting stems from an understandable fear the attendees would be sued by Diddy for violating an NDA. If you're asked to be in NDAs, do not allow you to cover up a crime. Suing someone for violating an NDA because they covered up a crime doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And they talk about again, Lil Rod was harassed and assaulted by Mr. Combs. Okay. As a heterosexual Christian man, citation needed. Jones was uncomfortable with Combs' advances. Well, I don't know. Maybe this is under the maybe this is under under ecumenical Baldoian studies. The Council of Spicer, Minnesota. It was right after the Council of Nicaea. They actually talked about the Baldo and where to include it. They talked about Diddy attempting to groom Jones and engaging in gay sex. Yes, we talked about this a lot. All this gay sex. All this gay sex. All the gay sex. How much gay sex? All the gay sex. And according to Mr. Jones, Diddy said that he had engaged in sexual activity with rapper 11, R&B singer 12, and Stevie J. And remember, we got to get to who these people are. This is a rapper named Meek Mills. And then 12, he performed the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency. That's Usher. But after this all happened, there's a big thing about Jay-Z freaking out too. So it's like they're all in the down low. They might date women, but they having sex with men. Well, I got news for you. Makes you gay. So they had talked about Jones being sexually assaulted by Young Miami's cousin. We've already talked about these parts, guys. I know we have, and they are still hilarious that they're out there. Jax is everywhere, gay sex all around us. Yes. Yes. And this is where Jones and Lil Rod, here's Lil Rod, and here Diddy. Lil Rod and Diddy sitting on the couch. Right before Diddy invites Lil Rod into the restroom and attempted to force him to take cocaine. Young Miami and Jane Doe 1 who sexually assaulted Lil Rod. I mean, women trying to grab your penis. I'm not necessarily sure that's an assault, but okay. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act, we talked about that. The sex workers that Diddy made Lil Rod bring back to his house told him, go get me some hookers. Go get me some strippers. And he brought him back. He's like, now I want you to have sex with them strippers. And I'm sure he's like, he made me have sex with these hot strippers. Oh, it's so horrible. I thought you were heterosexual. I am. Why are you crying? I don't know. Sex workers in the bed. Jones and Warren are being drugged. Yep. Which, okay, there's a picture of I don't know who and a picture of I don't know who. I think it's a little offensive to say because they're wearing something leopard print, they're a sex worker, but what do I know? Mr. Jones is scared, but luckily he didn't have a $100 bill. So wait a little longer to do coke with Young Miami. Yes, I did the coke later voluntarily. And yes, remember, he went to the booby trap. That was the name of the titty bar. These are the women. Oh, they made me have sex with these big titty women. Oh, Lord, it was such a hardship. Oh, Lord, I just kept thinking, why me, God? Yes. Poor little Rod. Poor little Rod having to fuck these big-tittied hookers. Just, it's tough out there, man. It's hard. It's hard out there. The Jones have personally witnessed Diddy and his son solicit, drug, and engage in illicit sex acts. It's where they talk about the underage hookers. Diddy tried to pass off Lil Rod to Cuba Gooding Jr. According to the introduction, Diddy suggested that Cuba get to know Lil Rod better. He left him alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. You know, Diddy in Cuba moments before he got assaulted. And Diddy here, Cuba. He's like, listen here, Cube. You this Lil Rod. He's like, I got him just for you. As evidenced by the video, Cuba began touching, groping, and fondling him all over the place. And we talked about this. Here's the video. Yeah. Lil Rod's like, I don't know if I like this. Cuba's like, just shh, no talk, no talk. But it's so funny. This guy's like, yeah, I'm making this record. And Cuba's like, tell me all about it. He's like, why your pants off? Just keep telling me about your record. He's like, why your dick out? He's like, I'm just listening to you talk about your record. And not at once this guy like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Not gonna lie, guys. If I'm sitting there and like, let's say I make the big time and I'm hanging out with Dan Abrams on his yacht, and all of a sudden, like, Alan Dershowitz comes up to me and like tries to like make me touch his penis. Fuck this shit, I'm out. I ain't sticking around. Nope. Still, yes. Forcibly touching. Yes, because the arm over the shoulder is such a forcible touch. So there was the Love album. And remember, this is over like, and Lil Rod only sued because he didn't get like $45,000. That's all he wanted. You know, Lil Rod only wanted to take his 50 G's. And he even got paid less. You know, yes, they use his power to intimidate him. And there's just, yeah, this was just so ridiculous. They go back and they just throw in Diddy with the nightclub shooting, with Shine, going all the way back. So, and then this is where they talk about Lucian Grange and how they aided and abetted. You know, this was, and the thing is, Diddy is actually, yes, according to Mr. Combs, Diddy felt like you could not make a love album without making love. So that's why Lil Rod was there. He's like, I'm going to make love to you like you want me to. And he's like, no, I don't want this. But you probably do. You know, so Diddy's brand Ciroc, he's actually sold all of Diddy's liquidated most of his holdings. He's very liquid right now. Then there were the issues with his fixer and chief of staff being involved with being the Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein. And they talk about the pills, they talk about the drugs, they talk about his butler, and this is his Brendan Paul, his drug fixer. This is the guy who got arrested recently, about a month ago, actually, right before the Diddy raids. This guy got picked up with a ton of drugs. So, and if you guys remember, this is all stuff we've seen before. All these things, we've already seen all this before. And there's a bunch of, now they talk, okay, and I see what they're getting at here. Okay. So this is the drug fixer guy with his, like, fanny pack full of drugs. And now they're talking about how, for the RICO case, he committed mail fraud. Yes, in Puerto Rico, you have to show the predicate offenses. Wire fraud, yeah. All kinds of stuff. The section cause, sexual assault, sexual harassment. We've already seen that. the sexual assault by Jane Doe in Young Miami. All these things that have been alleged here. So that is, they're also demanding insurance coverage information, which is something you can do in a civil case. Tell us about your insurance liability. If rappers misbehaving, big shocker. Yes, look at that. PM says, you knew they blew that white boy out. Maybe that's why he's on drugs all the time. Sir Fist says, Mark Garagos wants Sean. No, thank you. Cuba becomes his character while engaging in butt stuff. You can't say no. Yeah, Dan Abrams. You can't say no because of the implication. Sean drawing penis symbols. Your visualizing is excellent. Bob says, I went from member to non-member in a single chat. Zaven looks at Cuban and says, now, Diddy looked at Cuban and says, Cuba, now you can break them bucks yourself. Justice Smith, yes, it's very rough fucking hookers. Very rough. Kimbo says, actually true. Future made his biggest hit after banging Scottie Pippen's wife and immediately going to the studio. Really? I didn't know that. Really, you guys didn't like my Boys to Men? Like, I'll make love to you. I thought it was pretty good. The wire fraud stuff can be pretty damning over other charges. Remember, though, this is not. You're not proving the criminal offense. And remember, it doesn't take much to commit wire fraud. You do something deceitful that, for the purpose of financial gain using the wires. And remember, this is the wires too. Wire fraud. Bam. So that's it. That's it. General says that's odd. Usually insurance is in initial disclosures. Yeah. Cuba's a booty gooner. Cuba Gooning Jr. There we go. Yes. Cuba Gooning Jr. Show him the pussy! Show me the pussy! That's what happened. That's what happened in this lawsuit so far. All right. Oh. Okay, so now we need to get to why did this all run around like that? So we got to the Second Amendment complaint, and then we got to the motion of dismiss, which I think that's really where we need to be here, okay, guys? This is the big stuff. And this is where I think it's really, we already know all the salacious details. If you don't remember them, guys, I think we covered them, the basic tenets of them pretty good. I think we covered the basic tenets pretty well. All right, so here we go. Now Diddy strikes back, and this isn't even Diddy striking back. These are other parties striking back. Because Diddy hasn't responded yet. Neither has his son. That's because they haven't had service. They haven't waived service yet. So they haven't been served. So they're going to go through this. And this is going to be good. So I have not read this yet. The other thing that got filed was this thing here. And this is the declaration from the attorney, remember? We talked about all the insanity that they said was wrong and that they were going to end up at the end filing Rule 11 motions. So they did. We're going to get back to this one, though. And if you guys see, this is the filed 424. You have a table of authorities in your filings. And these are, very nicely done. This is all fancy, the type of work you would get from prior cashman. They use it. They use Word right, and they definitely don't fuck around when they're just copy and pasting in. They do full new formats every time. So let's get to it. Actually, hold on, chat, 1 second here. And J-Rock, yeah, if you I don't think this guy's familiar with the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure either, because when you go back through this, like, they keep, like, filing errors. They keep fucking this thing up. Like, there are so many errors in this thing, like filing error, filing error, filing error. It's just like, but I also get it. Once you fuck it up, Pacer will go crazy and like, oh my God, it's wrong. Well, yeah. So let's get back to this. Let's get back to the motion to dismiss, because that's where we are. This is not even an answer. This is a motion to dismiss the second amended complaint. Hold on 1 second. All right. DEI lawyering. Is Brooks their lawyer? No, they haven't asked what the business. J-Rock's probably watching the Bruins. J-Rock does not strike me as a hockey fan. Can I use purple? If nobody else can read... Brad says they have a paralegal check their stuff. Yes, their formatting's done right. So let's get to it. So the preliminary statement, they point out that UMG Recordings Incorporated, UMG Recordings incorrectly named as Universal Music Group, which is not a judicial entity, meaning not an entity you can be sued. Very much like Russell Greer, he says Kiwi Farms, a website. Well, Russell Greer, you can't sue Kiwi Farms. You can sue the company that Lolcow LLC, which runs Kiwi Farms, but Kiwi Farms itself is not something you can sue. Very much like you can't sue the YouTube channel Potentially Criminal. You could sue Martin Media LLC, Martin Media Ohio LLC. That would be who you'd sue, because that owns and operates the YouTube account. So they talk about here, as set forth in the argument section of this memorandum of law, all the claims against Grange, Motown, and UMG recordings in the SAC are lacking. They're lacking. The SAC lacking. Every claim is premised on the untenable strict liability theory that when one enters into a commercial contract, the payer under that contract becomes liable for anything the recipient of the payment does with the payment. So the plaintiffs and his counsel have blown up a $50,000 claim for underpayment for production services into criminal sanctions against Diddy and his associates. Remember, he said this. He's like, I'd take 20 grand and leave you alone. So not to pursue Combs alone without any factual legal basis, plaintiff and his counsel Blackburn have improperly accused everyone else of participating and helping to conceal the alleged conduct of Diddy. The first amended complaint contained offensive and knowingly false allegations that the UMG defendants, and that's everybody that's in here, helped and supported Diddy's sex trafficking activities. They also mentioned that Motown should be liable because of the conduct of the so-called parent company of Love Records, which the SAG abandons virtually all these allegations. Well, some of them it does, some of it doesn't. Gauna's plaintiff's completely fabricated allegation that he personally saw Grange and his former defendant, Ethiopia Hatmariam, at Diddy's sex parties. In response to the motion to dismiss the fact, plaintiff's counsel pivoted to pretending only that Diddy told him Grange was there and that he was in a drug-induced state at the time. Things nowhere mentioned in the fact, which I would bring up as a point of contention that you're now introducing like a completely new fact. And it's right so to bring it up. Also gone is the utterly unfounded allegation that Motown was the parent company of Love Records, eliminating the facts respondent, which means respondeat superior allegations. But unwilling to acknowledge they never had a basis for any claim against the UMG defendants, plaintiff and Blackburn simply invent new allegations for the claims in the SAC. These claims are no less false in the fact. Thus, in place of parent company, Blackburn and Lil Rod now claim that UMG and Combs as record label are general business partners. The SAC even alleges that the declaration attached to the SAC says Grange authorized Motown to enter into a general business partnership with Combs. She says no such thing. Her declaration says that only Motown was authorized to enter into a license agreement, which is not a business agreement as far as a partnership is concerned. And that she told Blackburn there was no partnership. There was none. And the weeks before filing the SAC, Lil Rod and Blackburn were provided a redacted copy of the license agreement, which specifically states in paragraph 16.11 there was no partnership. They ignored all this, and instead of pleading any of the required facts to support their partnership allegations, they content themselves on seizing on colloquial language in the press about Motown and Love Records partnering on Love Records' first album. Thus, the undisputed evidence they are general business partners is just through the course of normal use of words. So, and because they were partners, partners, that they can supervise and control how Diddy spends his money, making them liable for his actions, which there's no legal or factual basis and does not remotely satisfy the plausibility standard that governs Rule 12b-6. And that's the thing. If you can make a novel claim for law, but there has to be plausibility behind it. But that's an issue of going to court. If it's a novel theory of law, well, it's not supported anywhere. And it's probably going to get dumped. So that's where they state, you fail to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And it really ain't any law or factual basis. The plaintiff admits there is a license agreement to finance the making of music. He then leads from that admission to unsupported conclusions that the defendants were unwittingly or wittingly Diddy's financiers for his sex trafficking, and that the UMG defendants had a duty to supervise Diddy in his personal activities. That is a bit of a stretch, preventing him from spending money on his illicit behavior. There are neither any facts nor law to support this. And if all else were not sufficient to show that the SAC is deficient, it's pure gibberish. Blackburn's cry that he's certain he can prove his theory if he only got discovery confirms there is and never was any basis for the SAC's claims against the UMG defendants. Remember, it's tough because if you're saying, I need discovery to prove my claims, that's not a good thing to admit. I do love this because this whole thing is said, even this pleading is said in such a Redditor tone. Money, of course, is fungible, a fact that seems to elude the plaintiff and his counsel. Under counsel's theory, any payer of monies to Diddy for any reason, so Diageo, which distributes his liquor brands, or a bank paying interest on an account, is liable for Diddy's actions. Yeah. Even if plaintiff's general business allegations on any basis, the entire theory against the UMG defense is nonsensical. But as set forth in the declarations, there is no factual underpinning against the UMG defendants. The remainder of this memorandum explains why the claims arising under the federal RICO statute and the Trafficking Against Victims Protection Act are invalidly pled and should be dismissed with prejudice. So the absurdity of plaintiff's attempt to leap a chasm-sized gap is factually unfounded. Conclusions of his claims against the defendants are graphically illustrated in paragraph 250 of his second amended complaint. And we'll go back to that real quick. Where is the second amended complaint? Paragraph 250. Hold on here, chat. We're getting to paragraph 250. Okay. All right, this don't show up too well, so we'll just... Is China still open? Yes. So, upon information believed, this Uber used to transport a sex worker to and from Diddy's house, and the sex worker were compensated from the financial support UMG provided to Diddy and Love Records for the recording costs associated with the creation of the Love album. This is both a non sequitur and nonsense. They point out that as lead to file, he acknowledged he cannot allege that UMG intentionally did anything, but he nonetheless seeks to impose a federal racketeering and sex trafficking liability for having negligently funded the activities of Diddy. So they pay to reimburse the costs under an arm's length license agreement. They're not general business partners, and claims against them go beyond being frivolous. So at this point now, there's only 3 allegations against the UMG defendants. There's only 3. Violating the RICO Act. Violating the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. Okay? And then third, for obstructing enforcement of the Trafficking Protection Act. Okay? So, yes, they talk about Lil Rod living with Diddy, that he witnessed, experienced, and endured the alleged shooting at Chalice Record Studio in L.A., and various acts of sexual pressure and sex trafficking at Diddy's residences. UMG's sole alleged connection to any of this is as the general business partner of Diddy. As set forth by the attorney and the declarations of Lucian Grange, Martha Brathwaite, and Ethiopia Habtemariam, which are exhibits, the factual foundation for all these claims is indisputably non-existent. Plaintiff admits that Grange resides in California. Plaintiff admits that Motown and UMG are in California. Beyond an unsupported claim he was groped by Diddy in LA, New York, and Florida, St. Bartholomew, and the United States Virgin Islands, every event in the first amended complaint relating to this against the UMG defendants occurred in California. The only argued basis for personal jurisdiction and venue over the UMG defense under nationwide service pursuant to the RICO statute. As shown below, the RICO is so patently lacking in merit that there's not even an arguable basis for personal jurisdiction over the UMG defendants. So they're basically pointing out this is all garbage to them. J-Rock says, Sean. Hello, friend. Are you saying, Sean? Hello, friend. Oh, I will. Oh, yes, I need to. Where's that at? Hold on 1 second, guys. J-Rock, I got your, oh, it's right here. I got to open this earlier. But J-Rock apparently said something here. And no, not explodey. Not explodey right now. One day, chat, one day you'll do this for me. Do this in memory of me. You will send me something that shuffles me off this mortal coil. Son of a bitch, where did it go? Oh, I know where it went. Here we go. Try not to trip any wires in this. You want me to pull the tab, but that's where it's probably booby trapped. Okay. Oh, it's a model. Oh, an 837 Firefly. This is neat. This is neato. So you guys have probably never heard of this plane, but this is okay. Why am I? This is a plane from back when I was in Nam, the later half of Nam, that we started using for close air support. We made a little jet plane. They were little cute jet planes, and they went. But thank you, J-Rock. This looks pretty cool. They were around for a little while, but now they're gone. They've been gone for actually quite a long time now. 20-some, 30-some years, I think. Hold on 1 second, chat. Okay, yeah. Sorry, guys. Send you something that ticks like it's from Uncle Ted. Yeah, definitely do it. You can definitely do that if you want. But yes, thank you, J-Rock. Sean doesn't show all his gifts. Fine. Yes, because Alpha Fox wanted to help. So instead of having me to get up in the middle of streams, he got me this to pee into. The only problem is This doesn't have a wide enough mouth. You should have asked your mom. She could have told you need like the Home Depot like bucket attachment for this bad boy. So thank you, Jay. Thank you, Alpha Fox. The last time Sean was in a Vietnamese restaurant, been a couple years now, but there's a lot of good Vietnamese restaurants in Cleveland. Get a nice bit of pho. It's good. She did say you had a large vagina. Oh, then why'd you give me that? Oh. Anyways, getting back to this. So they allege the 20-year-long RICO enterprise somehow caused him to witness and participate in various acts of sex conduct at Diddy's house. Nowhere in the Second Amendment complaint does any of the UMG defendants did anything direct or operated. Instead, the SAC adopts a baseless legal theory against them that goes as follows. First, UMG entered into a business agreement defined by the laws of the state of New York to give Diddy money and resources. Plaintiffs alleged through the general partnership, UMG provided funding and reimbursements for expenses associated with the Love album. But Blackburn acknowledges there is no general partnership. He ignores the express terms of the license agreement, which says nothing herein contemplates or constitutes Love Record or Motown partners or their employees. All right, chat, give me 1 second. All right, we're back, guys. Some super chats here and stuff we need to catch up on real quick. Tia Nina says, Member for 2 months saying ditto. In response to J-Rock saying hello. Well, thank you. And D for $10 says, thank you very much. Says, bully sticks are in fact bull cock. My dog likes those in regular bones too. Benebone is an okay synthetic bone that smells like bacon. Just make sure to watch him from eating the shards. Yeah, we're gonna stay away from the synthetic stuff. So he's a little dog already, so there's always those teeth issues. Brad says Fanny has bags of cash too. Yes. And 10K View says bags of cash for parties. Not sure if anyone itemized the condoms and baggies of cocaine. Well, they don't know. It sounds like a Ukrainian government party, actually. Elfox says, is American Beauty playing at the Denny's? Yes. And then Stephen Cooper says for $2. Jewish lawyers for your Jewish lawyers. Why not? Why not? No one tell him I knew I was still muted. I was talking to myself. Did Sean talk about how much crying and furious masturbating the Miami Grand Prix has led him to yet? Not yet. Not yet. Barton Bella says dehydrated chicken feet and they will not leave bone or cartilage or hurt your dogs, and they love them. I'll have to look for that. We'll have to try that. We'll have to try that. So, moving back into this, though, they point out the Second Amendment complaint says there's no partnership. And it's just the press reports using colloquial terms that we all use in our normal language. And second, using a non-existent partnership agreement, they allege that as a financial backer for the Love album, they had a duty to ensure the support they provided was not being used for drugs, sex, or alcohol. And then they point out that the SAC refers to the license agreement but does not attach it. That's actually kind of a big deal. And if the documents are referred to but are not incorporated, that's... Now, you might think, well, I'll do it that way to avoid dismissal because the dismissal is challenging the documents that are there, the four corners. Well, there are cases where the plaintiffs can't hide that by not including integral documents because attorneys have tried that before. I've had cases where that's happened before. And they said, well, it's not here. And I said, well, that's your fault. You could have included it. And one time the judge said, yep, I agree. And the other time where I've had that happen, the judge said, you know what? Have him file it. And it got filed. And the judge looked at it and said, oh, well, that's still bullshit. Plaintiff alleges no reason why the partnership law should even apply because Motown and Love Records are both California entities. And that's going to become a thing here where, everybody's from California except like Lil Rod. And all this stuff happened out in California probably. So it's like, if we're all in the same state, it sounds like this is a state court matter, not a federal court matter. So they go again to this idea that, oh, we gave him money, therefore we're responsible for it, which makes no sense at all. And that because they paid him to make music, it's their job now to police all of his business and personal activities. That's not how that works. That's not how this works. And then they get to the third through vague and improper pleading below that this somehow constitutes mail and wire fraud, sex trafficking, and drug trafficking, predicate acts, without any specific allegations to any UMG defendants. And that's important. Like, what exactly happened? What did they do? And it's not listed. And then they talk about through 14 pages of a bloated and totally improper pleading, including 6, and we talked about this, the 6 single-space pages of a single paragraph. There's no way to show that they're liable for this because of the unchecked financing. Without the plaintiff's theory is that with any actual knowledge of personal participation, somehow the defendants knew or should have known the money paid would be used to fund sex trafficking. There's no way. I will argue, to be fair, yes. Now that we've gone through the first complaint and we're into a second complaint where Diddy hasn't responded, but the other parties have, they're like, well, what? How do we do this? Well, yeah, Diddy may have done all this, and yes, I get going after the deeper pockets involved, but this is not a good look, man. This is not looking good. Hmm. So the RICO and Victims Protection Act claims try to rope in everybody because they supposedly knew of Diddy's conduct, which they didn't, failed to prevent it, which they had no duty to prevent, or allegedly facilitated by merely paying him under his agreement. Nothing supports these conclusions. So, and they talk about Rule 12b-6 here, and yes, you have to be able to state a sufficient factual matter and state a claim of relief that is plausible on its face. Okay? And we talk about it, you go to here, that it allows the court to draw a reasonable inference the defendant is liable for the conduct alleged. And that's for Iqbal and Twombly. You guys have heard other people talk about it too. These are big. They call it Twickball. If you get into like civil procedure classes, they use that term. Ugh. Anyway, it's the basic pleading standards. Threadbare recitals do not support this. You need more than conclusory statements. You actually need a factual allegation. And this goes through, and a well-pleaded facts do not permit the court to infer more than the mere possibility of misconduct. The complaint has alleged, but it has not shown the pleader's entitled to relief. Okay, so we get to the RICO claim should be dismissed. Well, yeah, and they say that the civil RICO statute claims to ensure the statute is used for purposes intended by Congress. They point out that in a couple of cases here, RICO is unusually potent, the litigation equivalent of a thermonuclear device. I don't know if you really want to call it that, but okay. It has an almost inevitable stigmatizing effect on those named as defendants, and courts should strive to flesh out frivolous RICO allegations at an early stage. And here, they just have allegations of RICO, but what do? A civil RICO claim requires that each defendant committed 2 or more predicate acts of racketeering activity, that it constitutes a pattern, and 3, through an enterprise, 4, each defendant directed the operation and management of, and 5, causing property loss. The RICO claims fail to satisfy any of these. I agree. Looks like it, at least in my opinion. What predicate acts did they commit? How is it a pattern? They did it through an enterprise. What enterprise? Through Love Records? And how did they direct it? And then how did it cause Lil Rod? Because a bunch of this shit, Lil Rod's like, they're not responsible for. They're not responsible for. I don't see, like, Diddy did stuff, but I don't see how anybody else is responsible. Oh, Alpha, so look like you lost your dog. Sorry to hear that, man. Definitely barked away the Mormons a few times. I had a dog like that. Scared away the Jehovah's Witnesses all the time. It was really good. He was a good dog. Very good boy. I mean, that's the big one when he keeps Jehovah's Witnesses away. Hopefully your dog wasn't around Christy Nome. So the plaintiff fails to allege 2 or more predicate acts. All right, so you have to do the predicate acts. Well, the plaintiff fails to plead mail and wire fraud with particularity. So, mail and wire fraud are the predicate acts, which are valid predicate acts. Okay. Where multiple defendants are accused of mail and wire fraud, you must plead with particularity as to each defendant. You can't claim the defendants are members of various groups. Thus, the plaintiff must allege specific circumstance of the fraud, including the content of the misrepresentations, the date and place, and the identity of the speakers or writers. So, not only did you say who did what, when did they do it, how did they do it, and what were the contents of that fraud? What was being promised and what was used to defraud Lil Rod? How did UMG defraud Lil Rod? How did Grange defraud Lil Rod? How did all these people defraud him? Because right now there's no proof he did. You have to show it. And right now, I haven't seen anything that says that. And we went back through the whole thing. Ariel says, don't you just crawl down your hallway so they can't see you through the windows? No. Let the dog scare him away. So that's easier. That is easier. Senior also Bilbergo says, how did Trump defraud the bank? Who knows? Well, like I said, I think, once we get past the election, and the courts are going to be like, yep, this is all bullshit. And they're like, well, wait. They'll be like, Judge Engeron, why'd you do this? He's like, well, I guess I was wrong. Oops. Oh, yuck. Just like Harry Reid when he said all those lies about Mitt Romney back in the day. And they said, hey, those were lies. And he's like, well, they worked, didn't they? So the means to an end. Means to an end. So yeah, they don't remotely satisfy the standard of identifying two or more particular acts of fraud. What mails and wires are being used. And then they don't specifically allege the fraudulent emails. There's no fraudulent wires being sent. And there's no content. They said he has no knowledge of any mail or wire fraud in his application to leave for file for the second complaint, when he asked for limited discovery to be able to particularize his allegations of fraud. And correct, he has it backwards. Plaintiff may not first unlock the doors of discovery, so I satisfy the pleading requirements. You must satisfy the height requirements before getting discovery. That's true. You have to be able to make your complaint and make your allegations, then you can get the discovery. It's not a fishing expedition. You're not allowed to do that. Yes, it's not a lie if it works. Yes. So, and they this is where I think, again, it was stretched, though. They're claiming that Lil Rod admitted their theories predicated on assertion that they negligently funded the activities. Well, RICO requires intentional misconduct, not negligence. So that's bad. There are no predicate acts. That only requires dismissal. And I agree. I didn't say anything specifically. They talk about all the other things here. They plead a viable Controlled Substances Act claim. They make no effort to identify any of these invoked statutes. And they don't even include the correct citation for the Controlled Substance Act. Like, oof. 21 USC 1. What is the Controlled Substances Act? Yeah, what is it? Where are we at here? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a bit of embarrassing here. So 21 USC. So the funny thing is here, the 21 USC 1 is just the enablement of the Food and Drug Acts and enabling the FDA to come about. So that's not even correct. Well, within this part of the Second Amendment complaint, Lil Rod identifies each so-called enterprise member, none of whom is a UMG defendant. They only claim that they provided the resources to Diddy and Love Records and for certain invoice recordings incurred by Love Records. Yes, and according to them, while the Combs RICO enterprise included other defendants, they were procuring, transporting, and distributing illegal narcotics. It was during the making of the Love album that they helped pay for. So now they're liable for it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, the UMG defendants are not alleged to be in any of these activities. There are no facts supporting any of this and no law pled. The plaintiff does not allege that UMG defendants violated any of the cited statutes because, among a host of other failings, plaintiff does not allege that UMG knew this was happening. And they point out it's an impossibility given the money's fungible. They don't know where it's going. Knowledge and intent, known by any first-year law student as mens rea. Notice this is once again more shit talking. Is an essential element for each of the criminal statutes that Blackburn is casually tossed into the sack. So, and they don't. They talk all the things here. He did not specify any of that. There's no viable TVPA claim. They have not stated that any of these UMG defendants did it right. This alleged act is illusory, is non-existent. The continuous pattern of racketeering activity. You at least 2 predicate acts occurring within 10 years of each other. So you must show how the acts are related and continuous. And they claim that there's several partnerships from 2003 to 5, 9 to 15, and 2022 to 2023. They point out there's not ever any partnership with Diddy's groups. And the self-labeled chart detailing a joint venture and a worldwide distribution deal is both wrong and meaningless. Yeah, and that's stuff for the records. Nowhere does plaintiff elaborate upon the earlier joint venture or distribution deal in any event. There's no partnership there. There's no viable enterprise. And you must allege 2 things for an enterprise. A person, then an enterprise that's not just them under a different name. So it's focusing on the culpability party and recognize the enterprise itself is often a passive instrument or victim of the racketeering activity. That's why there's shell corporations. There can be no RICO violation without one. The SAC does not identify the alleged RICO enterprise. At most, the enterprise might be argued to be an association, in fact, among some of the named defendants. And that's sometimes how they get the association, in fact, where, like, the mafia guys, they have that thing of ours. But to be viable, they must allege the association exists separate and apart from the alleged pattern, with its own hierarchy, organization, and activities. So, like I said, you're using the mafia for that. Well, just saying Diddy's in charge and everybody does what the fuck Diddy says doesn't count. Because Diddy's in charge of Love Records. He's their boss. But that's already what they're arguing through, so you have to show a separate thing, and they can't. Additionally, plaintiffs fail to allege any chain of command of the enterprise or how, if at all, they function as an integrated group. The SAC is deficient again, chat. It's shooting blanks. Leroy Turnbull says, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know, man. You have to figure all their money, they'd be better lawyers. Yeah, this is not once you really see this, yeah. Lil Rod, I mean, The funny thing is, this is going to kill most of the problems before Diddy gets to it. And I don't know if this is by plan, but this is going to help Diddy a lot. Because if this gets killed in a lot of ways, Diddy can come in and pick up the pieces afterwards, and it's very much defanged. These other groups have done all the work for Diddy now. So it is seem to be working in their benefit. Probably me, but this lawsuit is not easy to follow. So the lawsuit is basically a money grab because Diddy did not pay Lil Rod. And Lil Rod's claiming that Diddy forcibly trafficked him, groomed him, and did a bunch of sexual assault to him. That he made him do drugs and did all kinds of things and trafficked him. Yes, he's considering himself a victim of trafficking. So that's ultimately what this lawsuit's about. And they're now suing not only Diddy, but all the organizations that Diddy was working with when he recorded the album, saying they're all responsible for Diddy's actions. And all these groups are saying, no way in hell is this our fault. We paid him to make music. That's where our liability ends. And that's where the record companies are fighting back. Diddy has not responded, but the other groups are fighting back right now. So they're taking care of this and getting their name out of the papers because this whole thing with Diddy is blown up and Diddy is radioactive. They don't want to be associated with it, so they are cutting ties. I hope that makes sense, Joe. So I hope that makes sense. Justin says, why would you sue someone for that instead of like going to the cops or something? Well, because there's money involved and you can also do the cops thing as well. Yes. And then J-Rock gifted 10 memberships. Thank you, J-Rock. Thank you for your support and your generosity. So, anyway, they point out the SAC suffers from all these defects. Deficient SAC chat. It doesn't allege that any of the UMG, so basically all the record group people are within a hierarchy or command structure that exists, including it, and then that is separate and apart from the alleged predicate acts themselves. And most plaintiff tosses off conclusions that UMG ignored red flags, which did not exist, and knew or should have known that they were allegedly supporting a criminal enterprise that furthered their own interest. When plaintiff admits that the defendants witnessed nothing and where the license agreement actually produced a loss, not a benefit. So we lost money because of Diddy. That's great. So it just goes further. Actually, hold on. What the heck? Okay, so this theory, and it's very attenuated, is that if they paid him for the making of music, it should have been understood that they could have been used for sex trafficking. And yes, it's the obvious point money is fungible. That Diddy was worth $1 billion. This alone, too, renders that the civil RICO claims are implausible. And that's fair, because at some point, it's like, well, how'd you know he wasn't going to do it? It's like, how was I going to know? It's not my job to know. So they talk about the operation and management of this. And the defendants were intentionally omitted from the allegations regarding the management. They talk about Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram, was instrumental in organizing and executing the enterprises. Okay. And he identified 5 people who executed those. None of those are the record company people. So the mere fact that the defendant may have aided in a scheme to defraud, even if that aid was intentional, does not give rise to liability in a civil case. And just because you don't direct it by merely engaging in wrongful conduct. And they're arguing in arguendo. Let's assume we did know what we were doing. The fact we're helping doesn't mean we're in charge. It's Diddy's enterprise. All those people did it. We didn't do anything. We're not in charge. All the alleged wrongful conduct is contributed to Diddy and his associates, not to the record people. The record people are not central figures either directly or vicariously in the alleged enterprise scheme. And then the plaintiff fails to allege loss causation. And finally, yes, you have to allege the RICO violations were but for or a transactional cause of the plaintiff's property loss and the proximate cause of the loss. That without this, Lil Rod would not have lost his money. Well, I don't see how, and this is going to be an issue, if it's RICO, how does Diddy stiffing Lil Rod make the record company liable? Don't know. And this theory is hopelessly attenuated. That UMG paid Love Records and Diddy for the recording services, and then Diddy supposedly used those proceeds in some unknown, unexplained way to support sex trafficking. Okay. Plaintiff now concedes he cannot allege that UMG knew this was going to happen and that they were negligent. Well, once again, it's an intentional act. You can't negligently commit an act if it's intentional. So the plaintiff comes nowhere close to alleging both transactional and both proximate cause between the funding paid to make music and the sex trafficking that is alleged to have resulted. Furthermore, Lil Rod does not allege he suffered a property loss by reason or any of the acts by the record company people. Instead, the intervening fact is Diddy already severed that non-existent link because Diddy refused to pay. By that point, they'd given Diddy the money, and at the end, Diddy says, I'm not paying you. Well, that's not on the record company, is their argument. And courts have found that injuries such as emotional distress or physical injury are not cognizable under RICO. The plaintiff must be injured in his business or property only. Personal damages and damages flowing to them are not injuries to business or property under RICO. So because of that, the whole cause for RICO should be dismissed. The TVPA claims dismissed. And the 15 cause of action should be dismissed. There's no proof they knew any of this happened. And they talk about, like, how the hell are they going to know? None of this shows that. They claim the defendants engaged in wire fraud to solicit people like Plaintiff to utilize their talents and labor to produce music. Okay. Yeah. So the obstruction claim should be dismissed. It should be dismissed. There's no private right of action to bring a claim. And even if there were, he has not pled out and cannot plead the elements that they knew this. That he must plead that each defendant knew of an effort to enforce the Protection Act, intentionally obstructed or interfered or prevented the enforcement. There's nothing from the record company showing this. So the record company is going to win on that, I think, there. And they request that all the claims involving them get dismissed. And once again, prior cashman, and they are for everybody here. They are for these guys, Love Records, Lucian Grange, Motown, Universal Music Group, and he's for these people here. So he's not here for Clomes Global Enterprises, Christine Coram, Cuba Gooding Jr., Diddy's son, or Diddy himself. So that's where we are, chat. And having read through that, oof, seems like Lil Rod fucked around a little bit. Yeah. Yes, an argument means an argument. Yes, but let's presume for the sake of argument, what I said is true. This premise. Dan for $9.99. Thank you, Dan. Says peace and love from Northwest Ohio. I hope it's a nice night up that way, up Toledo way. Justin says no property loss, just booty hole loss. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Oh, Tilly, hold on. You were asking in arguendo. You make an argument and you're assuming an arguendo. So for the sake of argument, it's no different saying for the sake of argument, let's say everything you're alleging is true. Well, instead of saying all of that, you say assuming in arguendo the plaintiff's correct, they still don't have a case. So that's why you assume an arguendo. It's just like saying assume everything you said is true. Let's presume you're telling the truth. And that's where you do the whole failing state of claim upon which relief can be granted. Let's presume he's 100% telling the truth. Everything he says is true. Is he still entitled to recover? Did a law get broken? Nope. That's it. So that's what arguendo means. So yeah, basically you're kind of arguing in a hypothetically, let's presume he's telling the truth. D for $5 says, I wonder if Nick watched while bully sticks were being passed around at Hito too. You think he got suggested the place by Drex? Maybe. Yeah. And 10K View saying, who lost money because of Diddy, the plaintiff? That's just a bad business decision. Pretty much. Diddy just stiffed him at the end. I mean, literally. He owed him like 50 G's, and he said, when we covered the lawsuit before, if he had to pay me 20 grand, I'd have gone away. That's all he wanted was, $20,000. J-Rock says, why not sue for breach of contract and such? I'm sure the DOJ got involved and they shopped this around a little bit. I'm a little concerned about this myself at this point because all this is happening. Like, these guys, this attorney could seriously face a sanction for this. This, like, having read this, I'm trying to kind of play it cool. Like, this is not good. This attorney, oh boy, he is not in a good spot, chat. He is not in a good spot right now. He is not in a good spot. Yeah, Charlie says, J-Rock with 10 subs. Also, J-Rock, you're super chatting up Nick this week. Those are some good ones. Yes, Lil Rod wanted his home money. Nobody rides for free. Very true. Oh, Tilly's Philly says, Tilly said, thank you for explaining that. Yeah, it's very simple. Sean was late. Tell me you learned nothing because you already told me. PBD says the interview with Suge was kind of interesting. I'll have to go listen to that. This attorney is like clowns to the left, jokers to the right. Yeah. But no, this attorney Blackburn, God, he'd be some deep shit here. Eric says, I hear Ty Beard is his lawyer. Well, that attorney's wishing he could blame this on Ty Beard right now if this is really how they did it. This was a shakedown in the public. Now, Diddy might be liable for all these acts, but everybody else probably not at this point. This is not. SB Seller says, what was the Fed raid for Diddy engaging in trafficking and shit? And the feds don't do a raid like that if they have a hunch. They probably have a lot of evidence. So I don't know. We're a long way from figuring stuff out. I mean, yeah, when we read it, it's like, damn, this is well put together. Their alleged stuff. But now the record company's like, we were never there. It's like, whoa, that's bad. When the record company's literally saying, none of this is true. Well, whatever the fuck Diddy did, sure, but what you're claiming we did, that's not true. And we got the receipts for it. So it's like, oh boy. It's one thing if they just say, no, we didn't do it. Everybody says that. But they're like, literally, we did not do this. You're like, oh, none of it. None of it. Like I said before in this case, the RICO stuff is never the answer. But just the idea, this record guy was not at Diddy's house fucking around in Diddy's bedroom for hours on end, getting high and shit. They literally fucking made that up, it looks like. Ooh. Ooh. There are gonna be some swollen assholes on the plaintiff side, it sounds like. Because this is really bad. Is anybody gonna get disbarred? No, but I could see somebody getting reprimanded. Like, not good. This is not good. The record company fired the A&R guy the moment the suit was filed. Yes. Does PBD still employ Cuomo? Oh, he employs him? I thought Cuomo had somebody. I think he worked for someone else. That part I thought was bullshit. No Mayo says the rap industry is gayer than musical theater. Yes. Gayer than Ian McKellen. And he's pretty gay. It will be interesting to see what happens. It will be interesting to see what happens because now Lil Rod's attorneys get a chance to respond, but I don't know how you come back from this. So Jim says, what is Sean looking at? I'm looking at you guys right now. Well, I'm looking here because if I look up here, I can't then look at the screen. So right now I'm looking at the screen. Right now I'm looking at the main picture. But if I'm over here, I'm reading the chat. And then when I do this, I'm reading right in the center of my view what No Mayo's saying. Not corner demons or ceiling cats, no. Nope. The power of Christ and his love for me and his salvation for me protects me from that stuff. Charlie says overtime's going to start in like 3 minutes. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's some good stuff. Too bad it's not like a holiday. You get that double bubble. Say, I'm staring into our very souls at times. Yes. But yeah, I just seems like Lil Rod either BS his attorney or his attorney misled him by filing a case. I mean, he's going to say it's not, the attorney's going to try to blame this all on Lil Rod, but very little research was done here. And to do all this, I would make sure you have it put together. Oh, you're talking about the hockey? Oh, you're talking about the NHL? Oh, okay. Thought Charlie was working. It's like, damn, dude, get it. Go Bruins. I didn't even follow the NHL playoffs right now. Who's playing? I mean, it's nice when the original 6. Oh, it's the Leafs. God, I don't know. I don't know if the Leafs are good this year, but I like the Leafs better than the Bruins. You got to fight. You got to cheer for the Leafs, kids. Got to cheer for the Leafs. Are you going to host an F1 party tomorrow? Yes. Yes, we will. We will. And then once we get done with the F-35, J-Rock, we'll work on this. I'm going to have to find... I don't think I have the right paints for that, but we'll work on that. Although this is a little bitty, so this should actually be pretty easy to work on here. PPP's body is chinning like... Oh, it is? How could you support Canada? I have an affinity for, the Habs and the Leaves. I don't know how you can't have any love for the Leaves and the Habs. And the Habitants, if you guys aren't aware, that's the nickname for the Montreal Canadiens. Just because they have the most storied history of all. And what time should we be there? It starts at 4. Hold on. Miami Grand Prix. 4 p.m. I don't know. Get there like 3:50. Be ready around 3:50 or so. We're not going to wait a whole lot. So Montreal, understandable. The haves and the have-nots. You know how many times I've heard that? Oh god, kids used to when I went to a hockey camp up in Canada, and there were kids from we were in Ontario, and there were kids from Quebec. You guys hear me weird? Is it doing that weird thing again? But there were kids from Quebec and kids from Ontario, and the Quebecois, they love the Habs, and they used to. The one kid had a like Maple Leaf style, Maple Leaf style helmet. And they called them the Have-Nots, and I was like, I remember I was like 10 or 11. I was like, oh, that's a burn. That's a burn. So it's doing the weird thing, but it stopped. Okay, good. So, all right, guys. So we are going to do that tomorrow. We are all wrapped up here tonight. Go leave. And yes, Jesus was sent by God to die for our sins. Was not meant to be the king of people. Unlike some heretical, apostate, non-believer, nonsense people might have you believe. Not true at all. Are we doing locals? No, not tonight. Oh, no, stop it. I don't know how to make it work then. There. Not in the Titan submarine anymore. So, good game. Oh, it was an April Fool's joke that Cuomo works for PBT. Okay. Why? So, yep, guys, that is it for tonight. Oh, J Rock. Hold on here. J Rock, thank you again, J Rock. So, Sean, I hope you like it, Sean. Thank you. I do really like it. I think it'll be a lot of fun to put together. Thank you very much, J Rock. So, guys, yeah, we'll see how bad Lil Rod's attorney gets his back blown out because this is not good. Yes, I have to take Clyde to swimming lessons at 4 in the morning, chat. How dare you ask me for more tonight? So, all right, guys, I will see you later. Remember, till next time, just because Diddy did it does not mean the record company's liable. Good night, everybody.